Hi everybody. Welcome to a special edition of our office hours. Yeah, we're doing this one on Zoom just so we can record it for everybody else, for anybody who's not able to join us right now at this time, so they can also stay up to date on the hackathon and what's going on and see any questions get answered. So yeah, the hackathon's running for a little over 8 weeks total. We're now in the second week of it, and we're very, very excited to see the turnout so far. So lots of people signing up, and I'm sure we're going to get lots of great projects, just like we did last time. Anyway, to introduce ourselves a bit, I'll introduce myself, and then Thomas will introduce himself. I'm Anthony Lusardi. I've worked as a developer advocate at Wix for a bit over a year and a half now, it'll be 2 years in August. And just really enjoying my time here, really enjoying the community, really happy to see how much it's growing and all the really cool stuff that people come up with. Yeah, and Thomas?
And my name is Thomas Jimenez. I'm also a developer advocate here at Wix. I've been here for a year or so. I can promise you I'm smiling in that photo too. And in general, I just love hosting events like this because it's a great opportunity to see what you guys create. And I'm super excited to tell you guys about today's hackathon. Next slide. So in today's presentation, we're going to go over some basics of what Velo is. Then Anthony's going to introduce the hackathon requirements as well as what we're going to be looking for in your submissions. And at the end, you guys will get a chance to ask any questions for anything that wasn't answered through our presentation. And it's awesome to see that we have so many new faces here today because that means that these slides that are coming up are going to be very useful. So next slide. So in general, to the question, what is Velo? Velo is a full stack web development platform. And so you may have known of Wix. Wix is a drag and drop website builder. But Velo is this platform that is built on top of Wix that allows you to create a full stack web application. In this image right here, you can see that this is the classic Wix editor. But basically, when you go on the tab where it says dev mode, if you click on turn dev mode on, you get a chance to open editor. Down here where it says home, that's actually like a Monaco panel that allows you to write JavaScript for both your front end code and your back end code. And what I'm going to do now is go over some of the features and functionalities that you get when you use the Velo platform. Next slide. So one of the main tools that gives you a lot of power is Wix actually has an integrated or external database based on what you choose to do. But basically, the content manager is like an integrated document-based database that you can use to store your customers' data, any personalization associated to their accounts, products that you have in an e-commerce store. The really good thing about it is that we have a set of APIs that allow you to query this database and display data dynamically, allowing you to create full stack websites with a lot of functionality. Next slide. If you're used to building on other platforms, you can actually bring in the tools that you've already been using. So with Wix, or with Velo specifically, you can use third-party APIs and libraries via using the regular JavaScript fetch. And then you can use an API that has some sort of authorization or open API. And you can also use NPM modules as well and import them into your website and use them with your existing functionality. Next slide. On top of that, the benefit of building on Velo is that you get a chance to leverage all of the built-in functionality with Wix on your website. And so this really speeds up your productivity as a developer because you don't need to create functionality that we've already done for you. So for example, if you're setting up a website that needs member accounts, where there's a login and people are buying things, we have a Wix e-commerce solution, and we also have a Wix member solution. And if you check out the Velo reference, you can see that we have 40 plus different APIs that are using our built-in functionalities that you can customize using these APIs. Next slide. And one of the best things about building on Wix is that you get a chance to build a scalable app in a way that it's deployable with just one click. So this big publish button right here, all you need to do once you finish your code and you preview it and make sure it works is click publish. And just like that, you have something that is secure, reliable, and is scalable for regardless of how many users you have. And so that takes a lot of the weight off of you, since you don't need to worry about setting up the infrastructure, setting up the middleware to connect like your database to your front end and so on. And all your developers really need to know is like how to use JavaScript or TypeScript, depending on what they use on Velo, and connecting like the other external APIs and also the Wix APIs all together to create like a full stack website. Next slide. So to get started using Velo on Wix, all you need to do is, like I said before, go on the Wix editor and click on the top where it says dev mode. And you can see that in this image here on the left side. And Wix actually offers another editor called Editor X, which allows you to have more control over breakpoints on the site. So if you need more responsive control, Editor X is another option. And all of the functionality that's available on the classic Wix editor is also available on Editor X when it comes to Velo. And so normally when you're working within Velo, you tend to code on an online IDE. So the Monaco panel that we saw earlier, that's like where you would write most of your code. But recently we actually launched a new initiative where you can use your local IDE, write some code, and actually preview it on your web browser, kind of like if you were working like on a different like full stack like what is it called, library. So for example, let's say you have VS Code, you can write your page code on VS Code. You can use something called the Wix CLI in order to preview your code, and it'll open it on a regular web browser as if it's like you're launching like a local server. And basically what this allows you to do is use all of the tools that you are already used to and code in the same exact way that you would on other platforms. Next slide. So if you signed up for the hackathon, which so far 380 of you have, and that's awesome. If your email was used on DevPost and you also have a Wix account that's associated to it, you already have access to the Git integration. So you could go on Editor X, and on the side, you'll see a panel that will say connect to GitHub if you're interested in doing it. For anyone who is watching this afterwards and you haven't signed up, we're going to periodically add you to allow you to use this early access feature. But if not, there's also a form that you can find here. And once you have a Wix account or Editor X account, all you need to do is write your first name, last name, email, and your Git username, and automatically you'll get access to this tool. Next slide. And yeah, this is just an image of what it looks like. So you can see here, we have some code that is basically some page code, just like you would see on the regular online IDE. And on the side, on the left side, we have the terminal where you can do all of the normal Git functions. So let's say you're working in a team and you want to create a new branch for a new feature, and you don't want to put down the main branch until you're sure that it works. You can do that. You can also do pull requests to make sure that your team has some sort of like workflow when it comes to like uploading new features onto your website. And so using the local IDE just really gives you the power of like standard developer workflows and just helps you build things faster. Next slide.
And just a comment there too, it also, if you're working on the UI part of your website, that still works the same. You can still use the UI editor for editing that. And when those things are edited, say somebody adds a new element, this Wix CLI, when it's running in the background, will automatically update and pull in those new elements. So you'll immediately see them and be able to use them in VS Code. But yeah, next slide.
That's a good point. And just one more note on this. So another developer advocate on our team, Yitzi, created a great video on this. And so I'm going to link you guys to 2 resources. that I mentioned, the waitlist, if you don't have access and you would like access, as well as this video, if you're interested in learning like how to actually set it up. Next slide. So now, without further ado, I hope you guys learned something new about Velo if this is your first time learning about Velo. And now Anthony's gonna talk to us about the hackathon, its requirements, and the inspiration behind it, and so on. So without further ado, thank you, Anthony.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. I'm really excited to see how this hackathon evolves over the next few weeks. So yeah, this is the Wix Make-A-SaaS Hackathon. SaaS software in general is just software that's web-based software that is typically, though not always, subscription-based. And so that's what we're asking you to build here. One common question has actually been, oh, if it's subscription-based, do I need to set up payments and that type of thing? The answer for the purpose of this hackathon is no, you do not. But you can have that as part of your plan for what you're going to do with the website, what your different tiers might look like. But if you do choose to do so, which you're more than welcome to, just make sure you have a full-featured either free plan or free trial so that when we're judging, we have an easy time going in and judging them because we won't be able to judge them otherwise. That's in the rules and everything, but I just wanted to reiterate that here. And yeah, so why do we kind of choose this? We chose this for a couple of reasons. One, Wix is a great place to build SaaS software. A great place to build all sorts of websites. And, this stuff has kind of come full circle too, which is kind of, it's just a fun period in time. And it's an interesting period in time because when computers first started, you would have things like the computer on the left. This is a very old computer that was basically just what you would call a dumb terminal. It was a thin client. All it did was connect to a larger computer that did all the work and give you some of the text back in the form of a terminal. Nowadays, you'll have your cell phone and kind of that same thing happens where the cell phone fires up a web browser and the cell phone's not really doing most of the work with SaaS products. Somewhere in the cloud is doing the work. A whole bunch of clusters of large, powerful computers are doing the work, and the results come back to the user again in the same way. The one key difference here is that in the old style, software updates were very infrequent. If you were running software one year, you were probably running almost the same exact version of that software next year. Whereas nowadays, software updates are coming out daily, hourly. And so that's another thing to consider, is that one thing we like about this approach and why we're doing SaaS software is that you can very rapidly iterate on this. There's even some extra credit if you go and read the rules and everything that we're judging on, essentially if you get some feedback and you want to iterate on your product during the hackathon, you're more than able to and easily able to deploy that. So that's why we're going with this. And also, startups require several different things. They want developer velocity that we've talked about. They want security, which Wix provides by nature of its service. You don't have to worry about it yourself. And same with reliability. It's something you don't have to worry about. So we take care of that for you. We make sure your website is up and running. You just write the code. And so we just want a challenge that reflects both us as the platform and you as the developers, UX designers, and all of that. And so the goal here, obviously, build your dream SaaS product using Velo by Wix. Getting into the nitty gritty, it must be a SaaS application. It has to be primarily built and hosted on the Velo platform. If you just build a custom element and then include that on your website, but all the work goes on inside the custom element, that's not going to count. You can use custom elements if you need, but we much prefer you use the Velo platform as much as possible. You'll need to use a minimum of 2 native Velo APIs. And you'll always want to use Velo APIs and SPIs whenever we provide that pre-existing functionality. That doesn't preclude you from using other functionality, but just when we provide it, you can go ahead and use it. Submission requirements, you're going to need to obviously provide us with a URL to your working and published app. Again, we need to be able to evaluate it. So make sure if you do tiers that there is a tier that we can use to fully evaluate your published app. Provide a video of 5 to 10 minutes in length that have an explanation of how your product works, an overview of your product's architecture, and a detailed explanation of how you use Velo with it. Also, if you end up using the GitHub integration that Thomas talked about, which I personally recommend, I love the GitHub integration. You have a private repository, you just have to grant collaborator access to us. There's instructions again on the website on who to grant that access to, but just go ahead and do that if you choose to use GitHub and use a private repository. And then to cover our judging criteria really briefly, like I mentioned, the full criteria is on the website, but we want to make sure you meet the minimum submission requirements that I went over. That's things like using Velo APIs and all of that. The submission also should iterate or innovate on current solutions that are available in the market. It needs to use our native functionality in ideally a technically impressive way. The more impressed we are with your product here, the better it is in judging. And most importantly, a good SaaS product considers user experience for their targeted customer. So is this product useful? Is it usable? Is it desirable by users? And can users easily access it? These are things that we'll be evaluating. We have 3 total judging criteria that you can see on the website, and we'll be giving each of those equal weight. And so, yeah, how do you get started? Well, there's a variety of resources on the wixsaas.devpost.com website. If you just go to, actually, let me share it really quick. If you just come over here, you can click on resources. There's a bunch of links here to get started. There's obviously the Discord server and all of that. There's an FAQ that I definitely recommend you read through because it answers a lot of the common questions that people have had about this challenge. But yeah, go check that out. And then if you need ideas on how to get started or what product or project to make, you can, start thinking about like what problems exist out there in the world that you think you can solve and for who. You can look at existing products and see if there's any place where they're lacking or they could be better, and make something in that vein. You can think about what needs do I have that aren't currently met by the market or that could be met better, and go down that road. I'm sure you can all come up with some great ideas on your own. And obviously, if you want to, do any ideation or anything, again, you can hop on our Discord and reach out there. So yeah, also make sure to find teammates if you want to work with somebody. Maybe you're good at design, but not so good at programming. Maybe you're good at programming, but not so good at design. The teams can be anywhere from 1 to 4 people. So reach out. There's, again, facilities to do that on DevPost, and also on our Discord, you can reach out. There's been a few people that have been there looking for people to work with. And yeah, so I covered the resources already because I guess I skipped ahead a bit. We also have Wix Learn, where there's a ton of videos on there. We have our YouTube website as well, where you can go Devs on Wix, youtube.com/Devs on Wix, and check it out there. Should probably actually add that link to the resources, which I will do. And yeah, that's the hackathon. And if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat, or we can unmute you and you can ask here. Just let us know. All right, we got a question here. Nico says, what if a component of our idea is not supported or provided by Velo at all? Say if your idea requires running some Docker containers that our Velo API will make a request to. Yeah, if you find that Velo doesn't support something that you need, you're more than welcome to use the Velo API. Obviously, we do provide backend functionality. So if there is some code that you need to execute, you can go ahead and generally do it on the back end. But if you need something more advanced, or if for some reason you are spinning up Docker containers as part of your solution, you're more than welcome to go ahead and do that. Reed's asking, do we retain ownership of the idea and code? Yes, you absolutely do. There's specifics in the rules section, so you can go ahead and check that out. Where is that? Let me just bring up the section down here. I think it's, yeah, section 7 goes over it. Basically, all submissions remain the intellectual property of the individuals or organizations that develop them. But by submitting it to us, we get a license to use the software as well. So just go ahead and review that. Ooh, got another question here. So Diego's asking, is developing on Velo the same as developing apps on dev.wix.com? Are profiles running apps on dev.wix.com okay to run in experiments with Velo, or are there any conflicts if and when attempting a Velo app deployment/development? So developing on Velo, I don't believe is exactly the same as dev.wix.com, because when developing on Velo, you're developing a specific website rather than a solution for a lot of people to install on their websites. So they do differ there. We personally don't have too much familiarity with that platform since we mostly work on Velo, so I couldn't give you a really good rundown. I don't know what you mean by conflicts, though. So if you want to elaborate on that, I could potentially answer that. But yeah, you can develop whatever you want on Velo. You using dev.wix.com itself for other applications doesn't preclude you from developing another application on Velo. As I run an app on dev.wix, I just want to make sure that starting on Velo is separate. Yeah, starting on Velo is separate, and so you can develop a separate app on Velo, and that app won't be subject. Your current existing apps on dev.wix or your current existing Velo websites would not come into play at all with the hackathon. It's actually, you're not allowed to use pre-existing applications anywhere or pre-existing code. Everything has to be ready new for the hackathon anyway. So let's see, is there a theme that we should follow? No, we've purposely left this challenge very open. We want people to be able to explore their creativity as much as possible. So whatever theme, whatever industries you're interested in, you want to create something for, you're more than welcome to go ahead and do that. We've provided some examples on the website, but on the DevPost website, but you can do whatever you want.
And a note on that, when we're looking at each project during the judging period, we're going to use the context of that specific market when we're taking a look at it. So, for example, if you're building some sort of, I'm not saying this is for this hackathon, but let's say you're building a game. In that case, user experience is something that really matters, versus if you're building accounting software. Accounting software, the UX really matters, but I think we've all been to bank websites and we know that it's not always the best. So it really depends what exactly you're building, and that's the context that we'll be using to judge your thing. But like Anthony said, we just wanted to make it really open and make sure that whatever you're building, you're passionate about it.
Absolutely. And then Nico's asking, it was said earlier that the idea should be subscription based. Does that mean we cannot have a balance type setup or a metered service of X amount of requests every month? No, you can absolutely do that. When we're talking about subscription, we're just, any way that users can pay to use your website is fine. So yeah, balance type setup or a metered service is also absolutely fine. Just again, I'll reiterate, make sure that we as judges are able to access it through some sort of free ability or pre-granted balances, essentially. Diego's asking if any other private Git repo solutions can be used, like GitLab. No, not at the moment. Hopefully in the future, but right now it's GitHub only. Nico's asking you're very welcome, Diego. Nico's asking, are Velo and PM module usage node compatible? Say if a node module has a node core module dependency like buffer or WS. No worries about all the questions, Nico. No need to apologize. Yeah, we support quite a lot of node modules or NPM packages on Velo. Essentially, any package that doesn't access the DOM should either be available, or you can go in and click a button and get a team to review it and approve or deny it. But yeah, most quite a bit of NPM modules should be usable. Will the material of this meeting be available to reference? Yes, absolutely. We are recording it, so we'll share the recording once we have it. You're very welcome.
So there's another question in this hackathon. Can we build a new tool to integrate to Wix? So in terms of integration, what do you mean? Like an app that can be used like with Wix on other Wix websites? Oh, of course. So like using the built-in functionality, you can build new functionality that isn't possible like by default. And that's like really the power of Velo. It allows you to like leverage like membership accounts, being able to save data, being able to sell things, being able to create like bookings, events. There's just a whole bunch there that you can like combine together to make like new functionality that isn't available by default. And to Nico's question earlier, I believe the backend supports Node 14 according to this help article. So if there's any dependencies that are available in Node 14, I would assume that the NPM package would work as well.
Yeah. Also, I've just checked, and both buffer and WS that Nico had mentioned can be installed in our NPM package manager. But also, if you want to do WebSocket type stuff and you want to do WebSocket stuff directly to your website, we also do offer the Wix real-time API, and that's basically a very similar thing.
I just want to reiterate on the, oh, there's a new question.
Yeah. So Reed's asking, I recall there was a similar hackathon recently focused on games. Can the idea for this hackathon also be a game? I would say no. It should really be a SaaS product. So games on Wix and Velo are very fun. So I definitely recommend people go and challenge themselves by creating one. But yeah, for this hackathon, it'll be a SaaS product. But maybe we'll revisit the game topic for a future hackathon. And sorry, Thomas, what were you saying?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to reiterate on like the ability to create like custom functionality. And so like Velo is like a really powerful platform. For me, like the best way to learn about it was just like taking a look at the reference. And you can learn about all the different like APIs that you have access to. But basically I think of them as like building blocks to like do a lot of functionality without having to write much code. Because if I was worried about like the security when it comes to making sure that I'm sending, for example, like web tokens correctly and not like leaking them somewhere, that would be a lot more work versus just using like Wix members, which is one of the APIs to deal with like authentication and so on. So I really encourage taking a look at the Velo reference if you want to see like all of the functionality that's available with just Velo. And then if you want to extend that, you can go further through NPM packages as well as just using regular APIs using fetch.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's a good point. There's really tons of functionality on Velo that is already pre-made for you. So definitely go and check out the docs. I actually happen to be a big fan of the docs. I think they're one of the most well-written docs that I've seen. I'm saying that just as a developer in general and somebody who's had experience with docs of all sorts of levels of well-written or not, and ours are definitely pretty well-written. Let's see. Reed said for his game idea, he was thinking of similar online games like a Hoot or a Scribble. I'm not familiar with those. I'm sorry. Aren't those also SaaS examples? That I'm not sure. Thomas, are you familiar with those?
Yeah, so for Kahoot, I would say that would be a SaaS example because you could provide it as a service to people to, like, for example, schools, and allow them to create Kahoot like quizzes, like for their students and so on. So as long as the aspect of it is more about having a service that you offer remotely to like other people and some sort of like subscription or usage-based model, that makes sense. So then, yeah, you would get away with making a game. And I think that would be really cool to see.
Yeah, I think that would actually work as long as there's a SaaS part built around it.
I know Ari's in here, so maybe there's a chance there could be a SaaS Love Monsters. It's possible.
Oh, just you wait.
Kahoot is actually a really interesting example. There's a lot of like integrated like APIs that you could use to build it out. And it would be pretty like expansive. Like you would really explore Velo. But I'm just saying that personally. Our judging process is there's multiple judges, it's not just me, so I'm not recommending building Kahoot. So we have another question. Are we allowed to build Android or iOS applications using Wix? So when you build your application on Velo, you also have a mobile view. So it's not a native application, but it will allow you to also use it on the phone. If your phone requires, I mean, if your application requires like the user to be able to use it on the phone, then that's something that we'll take into consideration more so when we're taking a look at like the UX experience, like for the user. But when it comes to like native apps, that's not something that we're really expecting. I think Wix has something called like the branded app, but I'm not sure like how that integrates to Velo personally. Maybe Anthony knows.
Yeah, there are Wix branded apps, so you can essentially do what like a PWA that ends up on an app store, app market. That's a paid plan though on Wix and Velo. I think that's got to be a paid feature. It's definitely a paid feature. We're not asking you to use any paid features, and yeah, just please don't. But if after the hackathon you want to go ahead and actually make your project into something like that, then you're more than able to make it a progressive web app. But yeah, again, Wix doesn't have support for native apps.
Another question. So will Velo/Wix require more front-end proficiency? Would you advise to form our team based on certain skills? So I think all teams that are built with like different skills in mind are the best. It's always good to hear from different voices and learn from each other. So I would really advise to like working in a team where you're bringing something new and you get to meet new people. And then for the first question of like whether it requires more front-end proficiency. So when it comes to that, when you're building like the interface for your app, it's done through the drag and drop editor. So that means that it's a little different than standard development, like with other JavaScript frameworks. All you need to do to build is like use the built-in components like from Wix. but you can also integrate your own components if it's like really necessary for like a UI component that's not available by default. But before you get to that, you can also customize the way it looks, like just using like some CSS properties through like the style parameter on each component. So there's a lot of wiggle room there to like create like the front end experience that you want. But when we're looking at your project, it's not just about like the beauty of the project, but it's mainly about like, is the customer that is using your project, are they able to access it in the way that's expected? In general, is your website accessible? Like, does it follow like the WCAG like guidelines and so on? Or whatever like countries you're from, accessibility guidelines. And yeah, so I would say like all skills in this case matter. The main thing that we're looking at are the 10 like criteria points that we listed like in detail inside of the dev post page.
Oh, and apparently I misspoke before, and many of our very helpful committed users corrected me. Velo actually doesn't integrate with the branded app store option that Wix offers generally, at least not yet. So the actual answer to that question, that was no. So I apologize for misspeaking there.
Of course, and we're going to be hosting these meetings every week. So if you guys can't think of a question now, we still have plenty of time, but feel free to ask us in the hackathon help or in our hackathon 23 section.
Diego's asking, just to confirm, are you looking for projects that build a central single site on top of Velo APIs, but not, let's say, a package just like a reusable app that businesses within a similar industry could use to easily import in a Velo site? Example, if building a invoicing app as a package on Velo, would this be a good example, or an e-learning platform for schools, etc.? Yeah, so if you were to build that invoicing SaaS app, that would be needed to present as a central single site on top of Velo APIs, not as a package that they could then go ahead and import. Yeah, or like an e-learning platform for schools, for example, like you mentioned in your comment, would be another example of a SaaS app that doesn't need importing in the way that a Velo package would, or that a devs.wix.com app would. Very good questions. You're very welcome.
If you haven't asked yet, no matter what you think of the question, just let us know, because this will be super helpful for anyone who's watching this recording in the future. But yeah, thank you everyone for the questions so far.
All right, looks like the questions are winding down. Oh, here's Nico. Is the intention of the local Git integration so that you can preview your changes before you push them? The intention of the local Git/GitHub integration is so that you can have the same type of development workflow with GitHub that you would on any other platform. So yes, it makes it very easy to preview your changes before you push them, but you can also do that within the editor itself. So that's not a principal aspect of it, though I do think the preview that we have with the Git integration is very nice. Yeah, you can do all sorts of version management, branching, managing your commits. You know, if you encounter a bug, you have that rich history now with Git and GitHub. So yeah, all the basic benefits of Git and GitHub are there and available for you. And you can also, you know, develop just like you would, say in Vue or React or something. You know, you fire up your editor, you do like npm run or whatever that equivalent command is for you, and it fires up a web server, and that local web server auto updates. You kind of get that same experience here where whenever you're editing code, your preview can auto update as well when the Wix CLI tool is running in the background. So it's not rendering locally, it's actually packaging it and sending it to our server, and we're rendering it and sending it back. But it all turns around really, really quick. Is there another question that I missed? I don't think so. Yeah. Oh, and John, it's a good comment too. Yeah, collaboration is a huge part of using Git and GitHub. So it makes it a lot easier to work as a team.
Just a note on the Git integration again, if you're using it, we recommend the Editor X editor, because then you'll also get the ability to collaborate like on the front end side too. And not just that, but you have more control over like your front end experience. And that's where integration is. So that's why we recommend it.
Reed's asking about the weekly Zoom meetings. Will they be scheduled for the same day and time each week? Yep, that's correct. Always Thursdays at what is it, 1 p.m. EST? Yeah. Diego's asking, does Velo have a single dev versus production state, or can deployment be done on a more advanced branch to QA environment mapping, i.e. production to site.com, dev branch to dev.site.com, feature to feature, subdomain site.com? Yeah, the offer for how Wix currently works and how Velo currently works is you essentially have your preview mode, where you do your development, and then you have your production site. So there isn't a notion itself of of deploying to, what's it called? I'm forgetting the word, but there's no notion of being able to deploy a dev branch to dev.site.com, at least not at the moment. However, you can produce preview links and share those around. And as Noah said, we do have an option for test sites where you can, I won't go into that feature too much right now, but because I'm not too familiar with it, but that's something we can talk about on the Discord. And Noah's just provided a link, so thank you very much for that. Can an individual, Mo is asking, can an individual be part of multiple teams, or can a team submit more than one project? For that second question, yes, a team can submit as many projects as they want. For that first question, I think that's something for Michelle to answer if she's able to.
Yep, you answered correctly. Hi, everyone. Just make sure each of your projects are significantly different, even if you're on different teams or whatnot.
Oh, so an individual can be part of multiple teams?
I believe so. It's usually right under the eligibility requirements if you go over to the rules again. I don't know who's sharing their screen.
Check.
Way up. It'll probably be the first mention of it. Okay. An eligible individual may join more than one team or organization.
Okay.
Yeah. But just, yeah, when you get into adding multiple submissions, you want to just make sure your projects are unique from each other.
Awesome. And yeah, regarding that previous question about test sites, we have a Help Center article here. So you can go ahead and check it out.
Does anyone have any ideas they would like to share with everyone?
Mo's asking, do we have a deadline to submit info about our teams? I'm not sure. Which info are you referring to? I think you can pretty much form a team up until we close, right, Michelle? You can just basically edit your
Right. Yeah. And if you're wondering about prizes, so I think he added participants and representative. Usually the representative is who starts the project first. But in prizing, if you want to switch that out, if you happen to be a winner, you can just let us know if you want a different rep, and then we'll change it.
Oh, that was just a hypothetical question. I was just wondering.
you can share ideas if you want. You can also
Yeah,
keep
you
them
don't
to
have
yourself
to.
if you want. I know what I would probably do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people tend to be very secretive about their ideas in the first week, but later as time goes on, I'll be excited to see what you guys have created so far. I know there'll be some sneak peeks. So yeah, if there's no other questions, this is actually our, of course. Oh, so we have one. Oh no, we don't. This followed by a kidding. I didn't read it yet. Open development platform that accelerates the way you build web applications using a visual builder. Sounds very familiar.
It does.
That would be very meta if someone does build that. That would be very cool too.
If you
But
can build that in Velo, I will be very impressed.
that would be a huge project.
Is
That is true.
a new meetings MVP. That's very funny, John. Nico's iterated on this idea already. Nico says his idea is a SaaS platform allowing people to run untrusted code without having to host their own servers or worry about security. It's useful for chat platforms that, say, allow users to share code with each other and want to enable them to preview what the code does without having to leave the application. That's great.
So we have some very creative ideas coming out here.
Mo's asking what happens if two teams come up with a very similar idea. That's fine. I almost expect that to happen. And if it does, it'll just be up to the judging criteria, essentially. Or maybe those two teams can just work together and produce an excellent project. Limited to 4 people, of course.
So in our next weekly meeting, we're most likely going to be maybe talking a little bit about the hackathon, but normally during this time, we also answer like support questions and that kind of thing. It'll probably be hosted like on our regular Discord channel. But yeah, if you guys have hackathon questions, bring them in every week. We'll be here. And I'm excited to see what you guys create.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's everything then. thank you all very much. Thank you all for the questions. They were really great. Yeah, really looking forward to, like Thomas said, to see everything you guys create. And yeah, with that, I guess we'll end this office hours, but feel free to join the next one on Thursday. We don't normally host these on Zoom. We normally host these on our Discord channel, discord.gg/devs-on-wix. Yeah, so go check it out if you haven't. And thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
And good luck, everyone.